You and I are steeped in this story that began about over 150 years ago. 1859, Charles Darwin proposed a theory. He called it the theory of evolution by natural selection, and he wasn't alone. He had Alfred Wallace worked with him, and other people were working. His name got attached to the proposal, and it was interesting because Darwin himself said he never expected this theory to last very long. He said, this is a stepping stone to get us away from religion as a way to help us to understand who we are. And when the new discoveries come along, my theory will fall. It will fail. It has to. And he said, I actually have one of his manuscripts. His daughter, his great-great-granddaughter was in one of my programs in London. You never know who's going to show up in your London programs. She came up, and it's good she came up after the program and not before. She came up after the program, and she really thanked me for being honest about what her great-great-grandfather had done. Because he was fine if his theory fell. It's the modern academia that will not allow his theory to fall, because they're very invested in the implications, and that's what I want to talk to you about. What Darwin said is we're the product of random processes. Things just magically happened, sort of. They called it lucky biology, a fluke of biology. Random mutations, and this is where it gets dangerous. He said it was because competition and conflict were so successful that we have prevailed over other species, and that thinking suggests if it worked in the past, we should keep doing it. The foundation of the society that you and I live in right now was laid down when this theory was being embraced wholeheartedly. The idea of competition in the economy, competitive economics began right here. The idea of competition as in warfare, as a science, where I've got something and there's not much of it and you want it and I'm going to make you pay big time for it. That all comes from this. So this idea, although it's an old idea, it's still influencing our lives today. So evolution, I want to be very, very clear. I'm a geologist. I see in the fossil record, evolution is a fact for many forms of life. It breaks down when it comes to humans. And the reason it breaks down is what I want to show you today, because it's a mind blower. And if I want to say is evolution is not our story. And when you begin to let that idea go, the way we solve our problems begins to look very differently. They asked me about cycles of time, and I shared with them that the fundamental nature of nature, the fundamental law, is actually based on cooperation, not competition. And they said, well, how come we've never heard this? It's rock solid science. It's in the peer-reviewed science. The best science of the modern world now tells us that nature, the nature all around us, the fundamental rule is cooperation, not competition. So evolution, this isn't our story. And the reason we know this is because of new DNA science. And this stuff is mind-blowing. And the science of the DNA, we are now able to extract, now just think about what I'm saying. We're able to extract the DNA out of the fossils of ancient forms of life. Some of them are supposed to be our ancestors. So it looks like a rock, but it is petrified DNA, essentially, is what it is. And we're able to extract that DNA from the bone marrow, for example. And when you do that, now you can compare that ancient DNA to what we have today, and now you don't have to guess. You don't have to have a theory. You can say, we descended from these forms of life, or we didn't. And guess what? We didn't descend from Neanderthal. We didn't descend from Australopithecus. We didn't descend from Lucy. We shared the earth with them. And we may have common ancestors. I'm not arguing with that. But something happened. We're not the descendants of those beings. Here's what we are. What we are is, it says that we humans, we are called anatomically modern humans. We showed up on Earth mysteriously, and we don't know where we came from, and it happened 200,000 years ago. The problem is, how did it happen? How did it happen? When they take that DNA and they compare it to ours today, they've actually been able to rebuild. This is an anatomically modern human skull, an ancient one. This is a modern one. And when they do the forensics and they rebuild, this is what our ancestors look like. But we haven't changed. And this is the point. This is not Darwin's idea of evolution. So a couple of principles I want to talk to you about. One of them says, and Alfred Wallace is the one that stated this, said that nature never over-endows. All right? Nature never gives us more than we need. What that means is that a life form will only develop certain capacities and certain characteristics when they need them to survive. The problem is we showed up on Earth 200,000 years ago. Everything we have right now was already in place. We had more than we needed, light years ahead of when we need it, and that violates Darwin's idea of evolution. We haven't changed. We have not changed in 200,000 years, and the DNA is telling us that. That is a mind blower, because it discounts all of the things that we've been taught, although the other ideas are being taught as fact. If you got kids in school, they're still being taught they're the product of a random mutation, an accident in biology. Let me tell you why that's important, because it denigrates life and it makes it very easy to take another human life if you believe it's the product of an accident. And you see this with young people, because there appears to be no sense and no purpose. We know that we are not the product of a random process. How do we know that? This is where the science, again, science, we ask science to tell us who we are. It's telling us, and a lot of scientists don't like the answers.